Welcome to Blue Sky Automotive. We're finally putting the heads back on this 2001 F250 V10. Got them back yesterday afternoon, did all the prep work. Now we're ready to slap them back on. Just to reiterate, you have 12 head bolt holes on each side. You want to blow those out the best you can. What I use, just a little trick, this is some copper tubing off of a refrigerator ice maker line. You can get these at Home Depot or Lowe's or your hardware store pretty cheap. And what's nice about the copper, one, the size is perfect, and then two, it's super flexible, so you can bend it around, get it all the way down in the bottom of that hole. In the top, just psh, 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 and then all that stuff comes out. Now with that said, wear goggles because a lot will come out. Use a rag over the top of the hole. Can help collect all the stuff, but that's super important to have all those cleaned out. Let's see what else. I'm gonna do this passenger side first. I think that'll be the hardest as far as the head bolts, because remember, some of those head bolts wouldn't come out, so the head had to be tipped and then the head bolts could come out. So that's gonna be interesting, but I'm gonna try to lay it on there, tip it, put the head bolts in, and then hopefully not damage the head gasket. Of course, if I notice damaging happening, then I'll stop, re-examine the gasket. If it needs to be replaced, then we'll have to buy a new set. Oh, and on that side, I'm also bolting on the exhaust first, because that's how it came out, because I broke some exhaust bolts. I was thinking, well, it came out so nice that way, why not put it back in that way with the exhaust manifold back on, and then you could torque it perfectly out here instead of trying to get underneath, and you can't fit a torque wrench under there, so you just have to guess. And exhaust bolts are so easy to over torque, so we don't want to do that. So I'm gonna do it out here before we put it on, torque it. I'll let you know how that goes, if that's like, oh sweet, or if like not worth it, put the exhaust manifold on after. We'll see. But all right, well, let's get to it. Just want to show you what the head gaskets. There is a right and a left. If you look at how that's shaped versus how that's shaped, this is the right or passenger side, this is the left driver side. New head gasket is put on. I put just a little bit of oil on the cylinder walls because they're pretty dry from sitting so long, and then all the stuff we've been spraying on it. So a little oil on those. And then you want cylinder number 1, piston at top dead center. If you look at the crank, it kind of puts you at like an 11 o'clock-ish on the crank. But it's easy to see. Top dead center, you just eyeball it. It'll go up to the top and then start to fall back, so you want it right at the top. Right on the head, because cylinder number 1's at the top dead center, you want to make sure that cylinder, which are these 2 cam lobes, those valves are closed. So right now you see how this is the high, that's the high, that opens it, so they're not on the high, so those valves are closed. That puts it pretty close to 12 o'clock. You have some free play before those valves open, but we just want to make sure that those are closed. And you can also look underneath. I just explained the lobes, but really you can just eyeball underneath. You just want them closed. So I have the exhaust manifold on. These bolts are torqued to 18 foot-pounds. So you can see how they're not that tight. It's easy to over tighten them because you're like, oh, but I don't want an exhaust leak. Well, the gaskets will take care of that. So 18 foot-pounds is what spec is. So the head is on. I just have the bolts just in here threaded a few times, so it's not torqued down yet. We'll go through that sequence in a little bit. I liked it. Every move you make, you have to be very careful. You know, you don't want to damage the mating surface on the aluminum. You don't want to damage the gasket. But if you're just very careful, very slow with your maneuvering, get it back. It needs to line up with this. So make sure it's back far enough. You can tip it, and then put those 3 head bolts in, and then tip it back. And you may still need to maneuver it, may need to pull those head bolts up as far as they'll go still, and move things around, but it went right in its home. So I like it. I like putting that exhaust on. I don't have to worry about tightening it up. I'm probably going to do that to this side. Once we torque this head down completely, we're going to jump onto this side. But nice. It went really well. Happy with it. One thing I forgot to mention before we put our head bolt in, they need to be oiled. The threads need to be oiled. They don't need to be dripping. What I like to do is just take some oil, put it in so it coats, and then see it wants to drip, so I'll just set it on a towel, leave it there for 10-20 seconds. So all we're trying to do is just get the threads coated enough so that when we're torquing it down, there's some lubrication on these threads and the receiving threads. So I've not torqued these down yet. They're just rested in there for the moment. I'm going to put this side on first and then torque them both down. On this side, so again, everything is prepped. I'll put the head gasket on next, but it's cylinder right here. So that would be, let's see, 5, 6, 7. Number 7 is all the way top to the top dead center on number 7. So 1 over here, 7 over here. So how we want our cam to be here is the second one back. So that's the front, that's the second one back. We want those to be closed. How that looks on the cam is you'll have this little notch. You want it so not straight up, and that's 90, so almost like a 45, but that's how you want the cam. You want those these two closed for installation. So I'm going to put the exhaust on again, torque it down, and remember it was that corner bolt there that was giving us trouble during removal, so we'll make sure we address that during the installation. So the head is in, we just have to get this bolt in the back corner. All right, we got that head on just set in there, so now we can get ready to torque. Now, we also want to make sure that there's lubricant under the heads as well. And then it's just a good idea before we put the valve cover on to lubricate all the moving parts, all the cam lobes and stuff. We'll just drizzle some oil all over the top of that as well. I'll put up the sequence. It's actually really easy. It's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and it just does like this pattern, this alternating all the way to the ends. Really easy, but I'll throw that picture up. And it's 30 foot-pounds, so one pass, 30 foot-pounds, and then 90 degrees, and then an additional 90 degrees, so 3 steps. 30, 90 degrees, 90 degrees. And then that's it. And then the heads are on. So I'll go ahead and get both sides torqued. So this side I have my 30 foot-pounds all torqued. How I'm going to get my 90s is I took a rag and just wiped off with some brake clean just the tops, and I marked perpendicular to this surface here. So my 90 I'll turn the head until it comes parallel to this. So that'll be my first pass. So I marked all of them. So the first pass, it'll be parallel. Then the second pass, it'll be perpendicular again. So I got my first 90 done, so you can see now where the marks are, all facing parallel to this. So when I pass through on my second 90, now they'll all be facing that. Just went through the second 90. That took a lot of energy. But now you can see how they are back to being perpendicular, but now on this side, so 180 from where they started. So this side is torqued and good to go. I'm gonna hop over to this side and do the exact same thing. Then take a lunch, and then after lunch we'll go ahead and slap on the timing. Coming right along. So this side is all torqued down as well, 30, 90, 90. So heads are on. Awesome. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this video up at this moment, and then we'll make a separate video of putting the timing on and then the timing cover. Well, we got the heads on, they're torqued down, good to go, sweating. The last 90, man, it gets your biceps, but they are on. Before the heads go on, it's really all about prep. Make sure your surfaces are clean, the best as possible. The cylinder walls, we want to go ahead and oil those up just with a light coat, because they've been sprayed on and dried and blown out and sitting here for a while, so we want to make sure we do that. All the head bolts, again, I'm repeating this, it's redundant, but the head bolt holes get blown out. That's important. Before the heads go, or the bolts go back in, or the new ones, new head bolts go in, we want to lightly oil the threads, and then also the head needs to be oiled as well. Putting the exhaust back on before the heads went in, I loved it. The only thing is they were heavier, so a little harder to maneuver because of the weight, but those exhaust manifolds don't get in the way, so it's not causing any kind of weird restriction in that way, other than just they're a little heavier. So keep that in mind. I did the first one. When I got to the second one, I could feel kind of like my lower back and my biceps, straining a little because of the weight. Other than that, though, I think that's the key, because all I have to do is just bolt up the white pipe, and the exhaust is done. So I think that's a good move. What else? I think that's it. The head bolts, to do my 90s, I just mark a little tick on one side, and then I can 90 it and 90 it. So that's how I keep track of my 90s. They make tools that have a little dial indicator that'll let you know when you have done a certain degrees, but didn't need it. I think that's pretty much it for this. Putting the heads on, it isn't a whole lot to it. Just, again, like I said, the prep. All right, well, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe. Next video, we're gonna be putting the timing on. See you then.